Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hello and welcome to Reloscope, the Relationship Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions in life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Aditi Kutty. Let's get on with the show. Hello and welcome to our show. My name is Aditi Kutty. I'm your host, and I'm joined today by Dr. Martha Tara Lee, a sexologist. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm a relationship counselor and clinical sexologist. I've been practiced for 13 years and I'm from Singapore. I'm born and bred Singaporean Chinese. And I got my studies, my doctorate in human sexuality from San Francisco. And I also have a master's in counseling and two other degrees. So, yeah, most of my work is working with individuals and couples with regards to their relationship and sexuality challenges, issues, concerns. A lot of the people actually coming to me are seeking this specialized knowledge that I have around sexuality. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely, I was reading through your bio and you've got a lot of experience on it. You also have a radio show where you give advice.
Yeah, so my podcast, radio show, TV show as well. Yeah, it's called Eros Evolution, so you can look it up. It's where I interview different people regarding the topic of relationship and sexuality.
We're definitely going to talk a lot more about relationships and sexuality in a minute. But before we kind of get into that, I want to kind of get to know you a little bit, get to know our guests. I'm just going to share, I'm just going to throw out some keywords at you and you can share like the first thing that comes to your head when I say them. Is that all good?
Okay.
No pressure. Just no one's going to judge you. This is a judgment-free zone. What about a favorite book?
Favorite book. Oh, I don't know. I guess it has to be my book, Orgasmic Yoga. I have four books, and yeah, my favorite book is my book because it has helped a lot of people, and I've been getting good feedback and reviews for it. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I read a lot. Books come and go, but I think there's nothing you love more than your own book.
I think it's always a good sign when you love your own book. It means you've produced something good because we tend to be so critical of ourselves when we create things. So it's always a good sign.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that book in particular.
Yeah, for sure. What about a favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Oh my God. Well, the first one that comes to mind is The Notebook. Yeah.
A classic.
I'm really into love and romance. I watch romance movies. I've watched every single romance movie on Netflix. Yeah, I love love actually.
Even The Kissing Booth?
Yeah, I watched Kissing Both. Yeah. Was it the second or the third one that came out? Yeah, I watched all of them.
Yeah, I don't know how many there are anymore. I think they're probably going to go till there's about five of them. Yeah. What about a favorite podcast?
Favorite podcast? I'm actually not a very auditory person, to be honest. So I really hate listening to podcasts. The only way I can finish a podcast if I can put it on double speed. Being a very kinesthetic sensory person, like I really need to be able to see, feel, and touch, and so just being able to hear is just kind of hell for me. So that's why my show is audio and video option. It's much better for me. So I don't really listen to podcasts if I can help it. Oh yeah, but having said that, sorry, I do listen to clearly
Mhm.
clinical. They do have podcasts. They do provide CE, and it's a form of continuing education for me. So yeah, I do listen to that podcast. But yeah, I can put it on double speed, so it really helps me a lot. When it's on double speed, it helps my mind to like be better able to stay focused.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that, putting especially like videos on double speed sometimes. I just process a lot more at a shorter amount of time, and I feel like I'm not processing anything when it's at normal speed. So I get that.
Yeah, I think we get bored easily. Nowadays, everything in on is on like double speed, or like nowadays people are developing less of this attention, um yeah, shorter attention span, and it helps us to be more engaged because our brain actually works faster than our eyes.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah. What about a famous role model?
Famous role model, okay, Eleanor Roosevelt for
Okay,
sure.
that's a big
Eleanor
one.
Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Yes, she was the first lady of America, and she went through a very difficult time. She wasn't born very attractive. Her husband cheated on her, and yet she was really the Princess Diana of the time. In fact, I would say more like Hillary Clinton, where she was a force of her own right, and she has said some very famous quotable quotes. One of which is you grow, something along the lines of, you grow every single time you look fear in the eye. And her quotes really supported me through some very difficult times of my life, and it has also encouraged me to be the person that I am today, to be more outspoken, to be a person of integrity, to speak up. So even though she's deceased, I never met her, never will, but she's always been an inspiration for me.
That's really cool. Yeah, Eleanor Roosevelt is a pretty cool person. What about the last course you've completed?
Oh my God, there's so many. I can't even count because I remember, like, was it earlier this week? I just went on a binge, so I finished like 5 programs in one day. So each one
Whoa.
was like either a podcast or online webinar. So yeah, so that's what I do. I think nowadays, because a lot of things are either free or very affordable, you can pretty much learn a lot of things online. And as a practitioner myself, we have to keep up to date with our skills and knowledge. And I love learning. Like, learning is one of my highest values. So yeah, recently I did this like a binge learning. So I did 5 in one day, but one comes to mind: sex education for neurodiversity, sex education for neurodiverse people, or something like that. That's the
Mhm.
title. Because I do work with people with intellectual disability, and yeah, specifically intellectual disability. And I wanted to watch that particular training, and it was useful for me.
Yeah, there's a lot, I think, of more info coming out about how neurodivergent people engage with sex, and I feel like there's very, very little done in the past, so it's really nice that a lot of that info is coming out now.
Yes, it's quite specialized, so I really had to look high and low before I got access to some places that have this training, this
Mm.
particular training, and the training just never ends. So yeah, I just keep studying.
That's always the best way. All right, we've gotten to know you now. Let's move on, I guess, to our main topic of the day, which is sexual routines. That's something that you specialize in and do a lot in your work. Um, I guess let's start off really broad. What is a relationship? How would you describe a relationship?
I Well, a relationship is anything that occurs between two people or more. It's when you interact in relation with someone. It can be in your intimate capacity,
Mhm.
whether it's with your inner circle, your family members, your lovers, and socially. We also interact with people, so we are in relationship with people all the time, everywhere we are, and when we hear the words being in a relationship, it specifically refers to people that you are in a romantic and or sexual relationship with. Yeah, so that's how I would describe a relationship.
Right. And would you say that the term relationship, especially romantic relationships, do you think they hold the same weight that now that they might have maybe a few decades ago?
I think relationship is what you make of it, and um, I personally feel that because of COVID, a lot of us have had a wake up call about our priorities, and what's
Mm.
important, what values we hold in our lives. Because when COVID hit and there was a lot of uncertainty about the future and our careers, our work, a lot of people started to re-examine what's important. So there
Yeah.
was this great resignation, right, that was happening in the US and also in Asia. So what's happening is people are really looking at the quality of life because there are really a lot of uncertainties. And I have also met with people who are questioning about the future and what that means for them,
Mhm.
including whether they want to have kids. More people are questioning about it, I think, because of COVID, because of climate changes.
Yeah.
It's not just something that you talk about nowadays. You actually
Mhm.
feel it and see it in the weather, in the extreme weather changes. So I feel that relationships are becoming more important because it is a big sense of who we are. But I think the way relationships have to be
Mhm.
probably is up to all of us to define for ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you feel like maybe because relationships are kind of more important, or because the pandemic might make us take it more seriously, that people are a bit more anxious and a lot more careful when taking steps in their
I
relationships?
think so. I think so because there was articles that I came across that because of COVID,
Mhm.
people are examining who they want to spend their quality time with because
Mhm.
you don't want to risk having so many partners and then increase your chances of catching COVID. So people are a
Yeah.
lot more mindful who they are seeing or who they choose to spend time with, including myself. So I think it's really I think you can look at the negative side of COVID, but you can also look at the other aspects of it.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. How would you define then a couple's routine?
Okay, a routine is something that you do regularly, uh, and it's kind of established.
Mhm.
So a routine can be something as simple as what you do when you wake up, how you go about your day.
Mhm.
Like, first thing you wake up, maybe you go to the bathroom and then you brush your teeth. Some people might exercise, some people might read a book, some people might make their coffee or breakfast, some people might go to the gym.
Mhm.
So when it comes to a couple's routine, these are the same things, like what they do as a couple. So
Right.
for instance, like kissing before you sleep, that's a routine. It
Mhm.
could be celebrating birthdays in a particular way every year or
Mhm.
anniversary. And it's really up to them to come up with their own routines.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Do you feel like perhaps, stuff like you mentioned, kissing before going to sleep, is that something that you should kind of schedule in or plan in? Or do you feel like it's something that is better seen as spontaneous? Because I think culturally, I feel like that's the kind of thing you just romantically, you should feel compelled to do it, as opposed to forcing yourself. But
Yeah, there's a lot of people who like to argue about that. So, for instance, many couples counselors they recommend sharing a daily 6 second kiss. So
mhm,
6 seconds.
mhm,
So what happens is 6 seconds will allow you to release in certain endorphins
mhm,
that will help to boost your mood and foster connection. So yes, you can say it's just a routine. I shouldn't be doing it. It's contrived. I shouldn't have to say I love you all the time.
mhm,
But I think these are the little things that actually anchors the relationship and keeps the bond between the two people strong.
mhm,
So yes, we do like a life to be full of spontaneity and variety. It needs to be like fun and interesting, but not everybody are like that.
mhm,
So I like to call I mean, for lack of, I guess to make sense of the world, like to divide it into two types of people. Like one is a more spontaneous person who likes more variety, and one is more of a routine person who likes more stability. So what happens is in a lot of relationships that I've um, met and couples that I've worked with, opposites tend to attract. So very often, I will have an introvert and an extrovert.
yeah,
I will have somebody who talks a lot more, who is more of a verbal communicator versus someone who's more of a thinker, who talks a lot less. I'll have a
mhm,
morning person and a night person. I have a person with a higher sex drive, person with a lower sex drive, and then I have someone who's like bored, from having sex in the same way to somebody who actually prefers it to be the same way and sees nothing wrong with it. So a lot of times, people are opposites, and there's no right and wrong. I feel that whatever works for the people in the relationship, it's really important to honor that. So if somebody likes the routine, I think it's really important to ask them why, how it makes them feel. Why is it important to them? Because it's less about who you are and what you like, and you are in relationship with someone. So it's about valuing and honoring what that person likes, because that person is in your life and that person is important to you. So we relate in different ways with different people. So if this person likes this thing and you care about this person, then you would do what that person would like you to do with them.
Yeah, for sure. How how would someone go about finding a routine? Like, obviously, there's so many different kinds of ways that you can build one. How does someone find a routine that's right for them, or a couple find a routine that's right for them?
Yeah, I think a lot of people actually always ask questions around like, what should I do? I don't know what to do. I don't know what I like. And what happens is I invite my clients to go deeper into what do they think they like? What are they curious about trying? And then from the trying, then they know how much they like it or not like it. Because intuitively, whether it's our brain or our heart, I think there's something inside us that is wired to solve problems. And so when you drop that question into your body, like what would I like to try? What kind of routine would I like to have? What feels good in a relationship? How what should we be doing so that we can stay connected? Often it was just emerge organically by itself. So as a practitioner, it's really important that I don't give answers to clients, because what I think will work for me or what has worked for other clients may not work for them.
Right.
And when I start telling people what to do, what happens, it can start to alienate them from me, because then they think, yeah, she's full of nonsense, or no, she doesn't know what she's talking about. So things like that can happen. So it's really important to support clients to find their own way. So just to give a few more examples of routine besides the 6 second kiss or the kiss goodbye or the good night kiss, it could be something as simple as sharing a hug. At certain times of the day, let's say when you first meet, it could be saying I love you every day. It could be texting each other like a check-in during lunchtime. It could be exercising together, or maybe at the end of the day, committing to spending half an hour together to talk about your day, going on certain regular like trips and outings together, having a routine, like for instance the Saturday night date, and maybe like going for your favorite coffee on Sunday morning. Like these are all routines that really keeps the couple going.
Hmm.
I have clients who they they don't really have that. Uh, what happens is they are married, they have kids, and they're busy working professionals, and they have their commitments with their family. And what happens is when I ask them about their couple time, then they end up saying things like, "Yeah, we spend a lot of time together." So I want to invite, I guess, listeners to think about: is your couple time actually just your spare time? Whatever that is left is the time that you spend with your partner.
Yeah.
The person just happens to be there, and that's not really a scheduled time where you bring to the interaction or the session with intentionality. You know, like if you say that you love your partner, why are you giving them the bits and pieces here and there? That's
Right.
not
Yeah.
quality time. That's just spare time.
So it's about making time for that other person and prioritizing that as opposed to
Yeah, so
just
this is where routine comes in, because for lack of time, seriously, like this routine actually acts as little, um, what do you call it? Like little um, milestones for the day, I guess I'll call it, like little reminders or little memory packs. I don't know, uh, touch points for the
touch
day.
points. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they a lot of these you mentioned are really small and take very little time, but are there kind of perhaps longer routines, or those that might be involved in sex? Because I would imagine a sexual routine isn't the kind of thing you can finish. I hope not in 5 minutes. I hope it takes a bit longer than 5 minutes.
Yes. Having talked about what routines are and the kind of routines that couples can have outside the bedroom, then now talking about like sex routines, like what kind of sex routines one can have. So, routine sex by itself sounds really boring. Just the word routine, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people will be like up at arms at it. But like I mentioned just now, I do come across couples who are quite different. So, often one person in the relationship is okay with routine sex and likes routine sex because being able to know what is what goes where, when what happens, is by itself very anchoring and grounding. Let's not forget that life by itself is very stressful and challenging, and
Mm.
there's ups and downs, and there's a lot of things that are unpredictable, like COVID, or when your kid falls sick, or like when your boss calls for a meeting. Like all these things are actually super super stressful. So
Mm-hmm.
this is why some people, they may not want to have this spontaneous, like hanging from the chandelier kind of sex. Like
Mm-hmm.
routine sex is also sex. Sex is sex. And different people will get different levels of enjoyment from it. And it's so important to recognize where you are at, what you're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and to advocate for yourself. If routine sex is not working, then it's really important to speak up. Okay, but having said that, what are some routine sex? So, for instance, a lot of clients would, um, if those in heterosexual relationships, they would first make sure person with the vagina, the woman, would have an orgasm, whether it's external play, and then move on to making sure that the penis is erect, whether it's a hand job or blow job, and then they go on to penetration.
Right.
So pretty much that's like a standard step by step way of how they do it. And
Mm-hmm.
it can be really anchoring and grounding, especially for people who are new to sex. Because once you do anything that is new, new things is going into the unknown. And when you go into the unknown, it can be scary because you do not
Mm-hmm.
know what are the results going to be. So it takes someone who has sexual skills and confidence to be able to kind of go more with the flow. So routines by itself really, really helps people to get a sense of what they're good at and what they're comfortable with, and then from there being able to explore further. So I don't actually diss anything about sex. To me, like anything that makes you feel good, we should give ourselves permission to enjoy.
Mm-hmm. No kink shaming.
No shaming whatsoever.
So it's almost like you're scheduling time or making time to explore and be spontaneous.
Yeah, it's really important to schedule because okay, so there's this person, I can't remember her name specifically, but she came out with this spontaneous versus responsive sexual desire. So spontaneous people, I call feel do. They feel like having sex and then they have sex.
Mm-hmm.
So spontaneous people, by the word spontaneous, I guess it kind of transfers from when like we feel hungry, we want to eat, we're tired, we want to sleep, and so we're horny, we want to have sex. But what happens when you're spontaneous? You feel horny, you want to have sex, but your partner is not available, and
Mm-hmm.
then they get upset with their partner, they blame their partner, they shame their partner, and it's not like the world revolves around them. So I think that's part of the growing up to realize that spontaneous sex may not work very well because I may not be on the same page with my partner. However,
Right.
when you schedule it, what happens is both of you have the time to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that things that needs to be out of the way so that you can focus on that moment, so that sex is more likely to happen. So when we have planned sex, what it means to people who live very busy, high-strung lives, or very very productive lives with raising kids and challenges like that, whether it's taking care of elderly and other life challenges that we have, or studying, is that when you plan it, you're more likely to maybe um, come prepared mentally. Maybe the body may not really be ready, but mentally you are open to the possibilities of what can unfold. So both
Right.
of you have blocked out that time, you have cleared your calendar. And also, what about people who maybe need, because they have lower energy, they get tired easily,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it might be useful for them to even schedule space before the date so that they can rest. For instance, let me take a half an hour nap, or let me take the day off. Let me go and take it easier, run some errands, like just go into my body and really plan it. For instance, like if you can plan it, then this is where the lubricants, the sex toys can be charged.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is when you can actually make it better.
Yeah.
It's when you don't plan that you end up like not doing anything other than routine, because
Mhm.
in order to do something new, you actually need to give it maybe a little bit of thought, and you need to be in the mental space for it. So by its very nature spontaneous, it may invariably just drop into routine.
Yeah, and getting into the mental space for it can be kind of a psych up in and of itself.
Yeah. So just now I spoke about spontaneous sexual desire, and then there's responsive sexual desire. So responsive sexual desire is when maybe you don't come to the table or bed horny, and you just start doing, you start making out, kissing,
Mhm.
massaging each other, and fondling, stroking, and before you know it, your body has caught up with you, and your body actually is awakened, and your body actually wants it. So this
Mhm.
is more for people who are more of like a slower burner kind of a personality,
Right,
and
yeah.
it's really really okay. I think it's so much shaming to
Mm.
think that everybody needs to be the same. Everybody is different. So some
Yeah.
people are just slower to warm up. There's nothing wrong with it, but they need maybe the time, the space, the teasing, and also the romance as well. I hear of so many women who actually say that it's really, really difficult for them to have sex when they don't feel loved.
Right, yeah. Um, I guess you mentioned that, like, there's a lot of couples you deal with who are opposites. So there are people who prefer routines. What about the people who don't prefer routines? How do they manage with a partner who does?
Yeah, so this is why they cannot understand why it needs to be scheduled, and they feel very distraught by
Mm.
the lack of romance, because the planning itself is a fact. You plan it, you put it in a calendar, but their interpretation that the planning takes away the romance. So this is
Mhm.
when when I have clients in front of me, I try to invite them to start to reframe, because you know, our wedding, let's say for instance, the wedding doesn't just happen magically by itself. The caterers, the
Yeah.
flowers, uh, the pastor or whoever, they don't just magically appear. Your guests don't just magically appear, unlike like in the movies. It takes planning. So does
Mhm.
it mean like when you plan for your wedding date, it's not romantic?
Mm.
So I get them to, invite them to reframe that, and also to appreciate like where their partner is coming from. But having said all that, I actually have had clients who are spontaneous, who have actually said this to their partner who needs planning.
Mhm.
You put it on your calendar, but don't tell me about it. Yeah, you put it on your calendar. You remind yourself. You
Yeah.
put yourself in the space. You approach me. I'll be ready. Just don't tell me you have planned it.
Right,
So I
yeah.
have clients like that as well, and whatever rocks their boat, I don't really care. But yeah, I'm there to facilitate the discussion, and for them to figure their way back to themselves.
Right, yeah. That does sound like a pretty good workaround, actually, just not telling the other person about it. How can these routines maybe help with, a relationship that has turned sour?
Mm, I think when things okay, so when things turn sour, what happens is people start to become really tentative. They may end up second guessing themselves.
Mhm,
Like I don't know what to do. I don't know, like whether I'm doing the right thing. So this is where the routines that have already been pre-established will help to anchor the relationship. Like
mhm,
instead of going opposite ends, there's still something that holds them together. And a relationship is not just full of a bed of roses. There are ups and downs, and sometimes one person is more affected than the other, and then sometimes it swaps. So having this routine will still keep the bond between the couple going. So I would say it's really important to keep them going even when you don't feel like it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it can be difficult to even raise this conversation though with your partner, like if that's something that you want to do. How do you go about doing that?
Um, well, I think the best way is to just ask and to ask in a form of a question, not a demand. So something
Mm.
along the lines of, hey, I have an idea. I would really like it if we can kiss every day before we go to work as a way to say, I love you and take care, have a good day. Is
Mhm,
that okay with you? Can we try it and see how that makes us feel?
mhm.
So it's as simple as having an idea and just putting it out there and making it in the form of an invitation rather than a demand.
Yeah, I would imagine that would still raise some questions though. Like I feel like some people might not respond as well. They might think, "Oh, do you think there's something wrong in the relationship?" But it might just be as simple as like wanting physical intimacy of some
Yeah.
kind.
So I think there's a lot of beauty in expressing our desires.
Mhm.
So making it clear is not so much a demand or not so much a neediness, but more of a this is something that feels really, really good for me. And
Mhm.
so once you've put in your request and you've gotten your request fulfilled, I think it's really important to validate your partner, to acknowledge their effort, like extending themselves. And so this is like the gift that keeps giving, because why would your partner even extend themselves in any shape or form other than to make you happy? So if they have fulfilled your request, they want to see your happiness. So for you to be able to reflect that back to them is a form of validation, and this is the gift that keeps giving, because they know they're on the right track. It makes you feel happy, so then they're more likely to do it, as opposed to forcing someone to do it out of like desperation or neediness.
Yeah, always framing it as a request as opposed to I need this in order for us to work out.
Yeah, I think a lot of my clients, they just hate being told what to do, and
Mhm.
when they are told what to do, like example, like take out the trash, it makes them feel like it makes them feel like they're being talked to by their moms, and they might resist that, not because there's anything they have personally against taking out the trash, but I think it's the tone and the manner that you speak. So
Mm.
when we speak, regardless of gender or sexual orientation now, when we speak in the form of a request and we give people options, and we even speak in a way that is lighthearted and a bit detached, then it's a lot more inviting.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Um, what would you recommend? A couple, maybe they're listening to this, they have decided that they want a routine. How do they begin?
Yeah, I just start maybe like brainstorming by yourself, and then mention it with your partner and say, hey, I hear of people doing these routines. I hear of couples being stronger because of it. I think
Mhm.
it's important that we have different touch points in the day to stay connected. I think this will make me feel really, really good, and be more receptive to sex. They love hearing that, and and then just try, and then see how it feels, and then talk about it. Don't just do it and then like, oh yeah, we only did it 3 times and then we stop. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
because you didn't keep the encouragement going. You didn't give
Mm.
any feedback or validation or appreciation, and so it's very easy to just kind of let that go.
Mhm. How do they figure out exactly what they want to start with? Like, I know you mentioned that they have to look into themselves and figure it out. What do they need to ask themselves?
Just ask yourself the question, uh, what would be something that I would like my partner to do for me every day?
Mhm.
What might be something small that I would like every day from my partner?
That's a pretty good place to start. I'm sure that would
Yeah,
involve a lot of thinking for some people, though. I don't think that's as simple
yeah,
as
and also not overthink,
Mhm.
right? I think a lot of relationship modeling we actually learn or pick up from the movies.
Mhm.
When you see people meet up with their friends, they always hug. So then then I tried one day, and suddenly my relationship with my friends changed, and we started hugging all the time. So yeah, you see, like, oh, okay, in that movie they hug their friends, so it seems like a good idea. So yeah, so that's actually how it started with my friends. I was the one who started like hugging them because I missed them,
Yeah.
and then before I knew it, it actually became a regular thing in our friendship.
And has it improved your friendship or have
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, because we Asians, we're not so like physically expressive, but once I started and broke the ice, then it became a regular part of my friendship with my different friends.
That's really cool. So essentially just finding something you like in a movie and saying, can we do this?
Yeah, you can be inspired by it and then see how it goes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think the only reason why we would continue something is if it feels good.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And also if you feel like it feels good for the other person as well, it has to be a two-way street. Um,
Yes.
all right. So I guess we've talked a lot about couples routines and sexual routines and how they work, but I wanted to get a bit specific and talk about a specific practice or habit that our listeners at home might be able to begin if they wanted to get into couples routines. So, what is something that you would do perhaps to manage your routines effectively?
Manage.
Uh,
I don't know.
So, in terms of, what is a practice that you might do to manage a couple's sexual routine effectively?
Manage. um I think just ask for it, and if it doesn't happen, to remind your partner. Let's say, for instance, a sexual routine could be, after sex we always cuddle.
Mhm.
After sex we always cuddle and talk a lot about how it was for us. That could be a sexual routine.
So, I guess,
I also know of couples, no sex if you don't shower.
oh,
So
wow.
their sexual routine is shower. Yeah. In fact, many of my clients, they insist on their partner showering before sex.
Right
So
before sex? Wouldn't it make more
yeah,
sense to
yeah,
do
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
afterwards? I mean,
No, I'm telling you, some of my clients are very sensitive with the smell.
right.
After a hard day's work, their partner has perspired, so they just don't want to touch their partner with that, I guess, sweat on them or things like that. So yes, there are people who are a lot more sensitive to smell. So all respect to them. But that is a sexual routine by itself.
Mhm. Is there a specific routine that you have found clients tend to gravitate towards, or perhaps you have gravitated towards in your life that has really helped you?
Sexual routine.
Couple routine, sexual routine, either way.
Couple sexual routine. I think, um, of course, as a sexologist, I read about it, and but before I read about it, I actually was doing it, and it just felt good, and uh, so I just kept doing it, which is to after sex, to uh, cuddle, cuddle after sex.
Mhm.
So immediately after sex, when the person that I'm with would have ejaculated, um, sometimes they get very fixated with cleaning up,
Mhm.
uh, and I let them clean up, but or then I clean up. But regardless of when the cleaning up happens, I will always try to ask for a little bit of cuddling after sex, because cuddling after sex produces oxytocins, and orgasm brings out intense emotions and shifts energy in your body. So it feels really grounding to hug and to just kind of breathe together a little bit. And it's also very nice when they drift off to sleep, and just before they sleep, I like to like talk a little bit about how it was for them, like get a bit of feedback or validation. uh, so yeah, I love that part about the after sex. Some people call it the aftercare.
Yeah.
And if you are going for like a one night stand or like friends with benefits situation, these situations may not happen, because if you don't talk about it before, it's not like going to happen because you didn't.
Mm.
They may not have you may not have considered or put it into the session as part of the entire session. A lot of people just think of this cuddling as like too emotional, or I don't want to get like emotional entanglements. But if this is something that's important to you and you like it, I think it's really important to talk about it upfront.
Mhm. And I think like you said, after you orgasm, there's a lot of like hormones swimming around in your brain, and something like cuddling just helps kind of stabilize it a little bit, and you can wait it out until your brain kind of gets back to normal.
Yes, regardless of what it is, whether it's whatever kind of arrangement, whether it's a
Mm.
fling or with a long-term partner, the thing is that um, some people, if their partner just ups and leaves, they can actually be left feeling used and feeling empty. And
Mhm.
so if you've had that feeling and doesn't feel good, then it's really important to ask for what you need, and make it clear it's not about me clinging on to you or like wanting something out of you. It's actually something that I need for myself.
Right. Yep. Yep. What are kind of three good things you would say about this routine of like cuddling after sex?
Oh, so good. It's first thing is bonding. It makes you all feel closer, regardless of whether you choose to talk or not. That physical act itself is bonding. Next is very relaxing. It helps to calm down your nervous system, like just being having a moment to just let all the sensations and emotions like just kind of be grounded. The next thing is like it's a form of self-care. Like you take care of yourself by like asking for what you need, if that's what you like. If you don't like it, your partner doesn't care for it, then fine.
Mhm.
And I also think that sex is something that is precious. We don't have to like rush to go on to the next new thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to after an orgasm, like to just kind of take it a little bit easy and just calm down and hug a little bit. And you never know, right? You might come out with like your next book idea, because sex actually brings about inspiration and creativity.
Right.
Sex opens up our chakras and helps us see God and feel one with the universe. So you never know that by just rushing and to shower or something like that, you might miss your next masterpiece, right? So that's why I think like the cuddling and everything like it can be very useful.
I love that. Make sure you cuddle after sex so that you can get your next book published. That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, sex is inspiration. Sex is beautiful. Sex is pleasure. Sex is magical. Um, and not everybody feels that way about sex. And but the infinite possibilities are there.
Yeah, for sure. Are there kind of, you mentioned already there are issues with, if you're seeing a casual partner or a one night stand or a friends with benefits kind of situation, maybe cuddling after sex isn't always a viable option. What are kind of the other challenges that there might be with someone who might want this but can't have it for some reason?
Can't have cuddling.
Well, yeah, for whatever reason, their partner doesn't feel comfortable with it, or maybe they feel too
Yes.
vulnerable bringing it up.
Yeah. So it's really important then to ask yourself what you can do for yourself instead.
Hmm.
Whether it's to maybe like drink some tea, to calm yourself down or to soothe yourself. It could be hugging yourself. It could be rolling under the blankets and just doing some self-soothing or some self-talk, like it's not personal, it's not about you. Things like you're beautiful, you're so sexy, that was so amazing. And just breathing and basking in the afterglow of sex for yourself, by yourself. These are all possibilities.
Mhm. Yeah, kind of just that positive self-talk to make sure that you're giving yourself the aftercare that someone else isn't. Um,
Yeah, that person is not in the position to give it to you. The person is
mhm,
not willing to give it to you. You cannot force them to give you what they don't want to give you, but you can definitely take charge of what you can give to yourself.
mhm,
So you have already asked for it. Good job. Well done. You asked for it. The person is not willing. Don't take it personal. Now it's important to ask yourself what you can do for yourself to make yourself feel good, and to continue seeing yourself as the worthy, lovable person that you are.
mhm. I love that. Would you talked about, making time for sex. Would you schedule this in as well? Would you make sure that there was time specifically for this? And how long would you say is a starting number to give it?
Do you mean the aftercare?
Yes.
Yeah, it really depends on the person. It can be as short as 5 minutes.
Hmm.
It can be half an hour, 1 hour. Um, it just needs to feel complete for yourself. Some people they might want to take the day easy. So that's the benefit of planning sex because you can plan it such that you continue to bask in the afterglow afterwards, like
Hmm.
the next day. Take it easy, like go for a walk or stroll by the beach,
Hmm.
things like that to kind of still carry the positive effects of sex and having had orgasm.
And especially if you do it kind of earlier in the day, you can always plan to spend the rest of the day together as well.
Yeah, whether it's on the weekend, some people like to journal. This is where you can start working on your masterpiece, things like that. No, I'm
No,
serious.
no, it's just like I can definitely see it happening. I've just never considered it before. Like I've never considered orgasms as a kind of creativity spark. Now that you mention it, my mind is kind of blown.
Yeah, it's pretty common. Like people who do energy work, spiritual, sexual healers, teachers. One of my teacher, her name is Laurie Handler. She's a older tantra teacher. She said she masturbated through every single one of her books. So she
Damn.
would infuse her book with orgasmic energy,
Right.
and words carry energy. And there is definitely a quality of specialness in her book, Sex and Happiness.
Yeah, for sure. I might I don't know if I should say if I would try it or not, but maybe I'll give it a go. Um, do you feel like how do you feel like this practice might impact someone's perception on life? How do you feel like it might change you? Or how has it changed
Uh,
you if it has?
what the after
Yeah, cuddling
cuddling?
after sex. Yeah.
Um, just having more patience and compassion and love for myself.
Mhm.
I think we rush. We rush.
Mm. We
We rush
do.
through life. Okay, orgasm. Okay, that's it. Let's move on to the next thing. Chop chop. And not everything has to be such a rush. So and it's easy to say that, but it's hard to do.
Mhm.
So for me, I've had to tell myself this again and again. Life is not a race; it's a journey. Life is a journey, and I've actually even said this to myself several times. Like, Mata, what's the freaking rush?
Mm.
So over time and practice, yes, I have mellowed down as I got older, because if I just keep rushing and rushing and rushing and keep focusing on being like hyper productive,
Mhm.
I'm actually frying myself, actually bringing myself to an early death, literally.
Mhm. Mhm.
So by taking care of myself, ourselves, and enjoying life for what it is, whether it's before sex, whether it's after sex,
Mhm.
it's really important. Or also like women, who have given birth, right? Rushing to get their bodies back in shape.
Yeah.
There's a time and place for everything. Life is a journey.
Mhm.
People who have, gone through, like, say, COVID, or people who have been gone through like terminal illnesses or cancer, um, it's so painful when I hear people saying things like, "Oh yeah, get well soon." What if this person cannot get well and they have to
Mhm.
live with cancer and continue fighting with cancer? Words like, "Oh, get well soon," assuming there's only a sick or well.
Mhm.
What if there's like a whole spectrum around sick and not well?
Mhm.
So things like that, like being patient with ourselves, and so like not rushing through life. So I think so yeah, there is a lot of learning that we can learn through orgasms, because it helps us to maybe take a pause and maybe even reflect on our lives. This is another reason why I like my periods, because every menstruation, no matter what I want to do, like, my body is telling me I want to curl out and just sleep. So yeah,
Yeah.
so I actually schedule my life around my menstruation so that I'm working with my body and not against my body.
Yeah, I think it can be really hard sometimes because as women, we're taught to kind of push through our periods, no matter how much pain and stress. Like for me, I don't get cramps per se, but my entire body kind of feels like falling apart once a month.
Yeah,
And it's kind of crazy how we have to push through it. We're expected to push through it.
I'm so grateful that I work for myself, so I can schedule my time to a certain extent. So yes, because my work is energy, I give energy, support clients, give hope, hold people to a higher space. And so all my work is energy. So I have to work on myself so that I can be at optimum shape for them. So it's
Mhm.
really important sometimes to do less and not to do too much, because when I'm exhausted, I'm not doing my best for my clients.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's really important for me to look at my menstruation and to block out my time and to be gentle with myself so that I have
Mhm.
more to give to my clients, and it is my responsibility because this is very much linked to my work.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, going back to cuddling after sex, you mentioned that, some people need like an hour to kind of get back to normal and relax and fully experience it. That's a lot of time, I think, in today's world. But when you reframe it that way, when you reframe it as forcing yourself to take a break and forcing yourself to relax, it makes a lot of sense that it would be like an hour.
Yeah, and who is to say, like in that hour, the energies are integrating, and you are, having all kinds of amazing thoughts or visions coming up, and then if your body needs it, you can take a nap. That's all right.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely feel that taking a nap. That was a really important one for me. Um, do you have kind of any recommendations of a habit that you would combine? We talked earlier about scheduling sex and then also scheduling the aftercare afterwards. Is there kind of is that something that you have often recommended to clients? Is that a combination that you often give them?
Yeah, I do. I recommend this especially to my clients who are busy mothers.
Hmm.
They give so much to their family, and being mothers, of course, they want the best for their children.
Of course.
Um, and what happens a lot of times is they start to lose themselves. They don't know who they are anymore. They don't know what they like. They don't take care of themselves physically. They don't dress up. So I actually strongly encourage them to do something every day for themselves, whether it's 10 minutes, just a routine. Because again, coming back to routines, routines are very stabilizing. What happens is our mind and body actually really starts to look forward to that routine.
Hmm.
Because if every day is different, it actually is super stressful on your body.
Hmm.
But when you have that one thing that is at the same time every day doing the same thing, it might sound so boring, but actually your body will start to crave it.
Yeah. It's kind of developing an appetite for it almost.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because it's chaos. It's
Hmm.
chaos. Where everything is different all the time. You might think, oh, I'm a spontaneous person. It's not a big deal. That's not what it was when we were kids.
Yeah.
Kids need routine. So we grew up with routines. So suddenly you are an adult and you think you don't need routine. You get what I'm trying to say? So why not try and see what difference your life would be if you had some routine? So by extension, then couple routine, right?
Mhm.
Feeling connected and stabilizing each other and also yourselves, because the routine stabilizes you as a couple, but it also stabilizes you as a person. So you're doing it for your partner, but you're also doing it for your relationship. You're also doing it for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a self-care act, but it's also a bonding act at the same time.
Precisely.
We've got a lot of questions from the audience on this topic. They're pretty curious about this. Most of them boil down to would it negatively or positively affect your libido, which I think we've kind of already discussed um,
Yeah.
quite a lot.
Yes, so it's different for different people. I think if your partner is bringing it up, like it's boring, it's not working for them,
Mhm.
it might be a sign that they are a person who is not so into routine, and maybe they're getting their routine with you in other areas, and they just want sex to be more different, and it's
Mhm.
okay too. So when I work with couples who are one likes more variety, one likes more routine, so I would have to say, I would say then things like it's okay. So sometimes you do it their way, and sometimes they have to do it your way. And why not like take turns planning the sex date? Like today is my turn, and this is what I want to do.
Mhm.
I want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to your partner turn, then fine, like you extend yourself a little bit, but of course always with consent. So
Yeah.
by taking turns to plan it, this is when you can actually be a little bit more creative and more playful, knowing that your partner is coming to the table like more more prepared. So
Mhm.
I definitely am a very big advocate of planned sex, or at least planned blocked out time, because you can block
Mhm.
out the time and you can also be flexible around that time and say that, you know what, I know we said we want to have sex, but I would be okay if we did a massage first and see how we go, see how we feel,
Mhm.
so that we don't feel the pressure that we must have sex.
Yeah. So it's just kind of blocking out that time to perhaps do
Yeah,
something, but not necessarily.
blocking out the time, because if you don't block it out, it doesn't happen. You know, for instance, like needing to arrange the babysitter or things like that.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's like it's almost like when you plan to meet up with people, but if you don't actually set a time, no one's actually gonna make it, and it never happens.
Yeah, precisely.
Do you What are kind of the ways that uh, couples can deal with the pressure if there's kind of more pressure on one partner than another because of these routines?
Pressure. Deal with the pressure. Just be honest and speak up, and try to get on the same page. I think the pressure actually comes from within yourself.
Mhm.
Um, Pressure to give when you have nothing to give, no energy to give. Pressure of like not doing good enough. And a lot of it is actually our own stuff. A lot of it is our own stuff. It usually has nothing to do with our partner.
Mhm.
So that's why I say like being able to talk about it with your partner is very important, so that they have the opportunity to give you a reply instead of you second guessing and putting words into their mouth. They didn't say that, but you're assuming certain things of them, and then that becomes your reality, and that can lead to misunderstandings that can be totally unnecessary. So I think it's really important to just be as honest as you can with your partner, both of you like making a commitment that life is too short to be second guessing. If I ever have a doubt or question or pressure, like I'm just going to bring it up to you, and
Mhm.
I leave it to you to give me a reply. But I'd rather not be spending time, in the dark, like questioning myself or second guessing. That's just exhausting.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't we get enough of that at work already?
Yeah. And I feel like communication is probably the most important aspect of any relationship. Like if you're not communicating, then not even a routine is going to help you, I think.
Yeah, and yeah, this second guessing is really a big killer
Mhm.
of our mental energy, and also, of course, inability to let go of the past. People bringing up baggage, like instead of one fight, they bring up the fight from like 10 years ago, and
Yeah.
try to solve it. Like at the same time, it's just not gonna work.
Mhm. Some people just hold grudges, but I think it's important for anyone who holds a grudge to talk it out, in order to let
Yeah,
it go.
yeah, it's important to talk it out, and it's important to do it one at a time, and it's
Mhm.
important to talk it out with the intent of fixing something or healing something or learning
Mhm.
something, so that both of you can be stronger for it, not with the intent to attack or win the fight.
Mhm.
Like when the team hurts, then the team loses, right? So
Yeah.
it's not about you winning or anything like that. And this is when I really suggest for my clients who keep having the same fights to seek counseling.
Mhm. Maybe setting aside time to communicate with each other and talk to each other about their problems is also a form of a routine that people can
Yes,
employ.
yes. I have a few fight fair tips. So it includes scheduling time to talk about it. Don't just spring it at your partner at 2 a.m. in the morning. That's not going to end well. So
Definitely not
scheduling
well
time,
cuddling after sex.
yeah. So scheduling time, being coming to the table, both willing to uh, really have a way forward, having uninterrupted time, like your partner being able to complete what they are saying so that they don't feel short-circuited and then they keep going back to what they wanted to say before you cut them off. So it's really important to have scheduled time, uninterrupted time, equal time to speak, and also at any point being able to have a timeout. A timeout is not sweeping things under the carpet. A timeout is not right now, later. And then when you say later, then when, and then being able to really resolve it.
Yeah, for sure. So moving on to another audience question. When couples are deciding to have a sexual routine, how do they start? Do they start with something small or is there another way?
Yeah, I can start with something small, and different people actually view anniversaries and birthdays different. So those are the big ones that definitely needs to be on the calendar.
Hmm.
Some people will like, I don't want to celebrate my birthday. Do not celebrate my birthday. Do not give me a present. Whereas some people will be like I have a friend who's like that. You know,
Mm,
um, he insisted that his children do something for him on on Father's Day.
right.
I
Yeah.
do so much for you. I don't want anything. I expect something on Father's Day.
Yeah.
Not even his birthday, Father's Day. I was like, oh, okay, okay. Good luck to your kids. They must remember that, or else,
I do
like that's the
prefer that though. I feel like you know exactly what they want when they're that honest with
yeah,
you.
yeah. So that by itself is a routine.
Mm. And I think that birthdays and anniversaries are things that even if we don't necessarily value them, we're kind of taught to. So we naturally tend to create routines or at least make events out of those anyway.
Yeah, you might not value it, but your partner does. And if you
Mhm.
honor your partner, love your partner, then it's not about you. It's really about respecting where they are coming from. Do
Mhm.
your best to understand where they're coming from. And I think the resentment or pressure is more likely to just slide off your back.
Mm. I don't think it should even be a point of resentment. I feel if you're resenting celebrating someone's birthday or not celebrating someone's birthday, then that might be a sign of something a bit more serious.
Yeah, I think some people are selfish, you know. I'm not
Mhm.
into it, so I'm not going to do it. That's not how
Yeah.
it is.
Mm. It's about what they want. Definitely. That kind of brings us to the end of the audience questions. There weren't a lot, but unfortunately, they were all kind of the same thing. Um, and I want to move on now to the open mic. And we've talked, you wanted to talk about what routines people do for sex drive, and you also wanted to talk about something called the cure. What exactly is that? Explain all of that to me.
The what?
The cure.
Oh, yes. Okay, so like to share about this tool called the triangular theory of love. So for long-term relationships to thrive, not just be okay, to thrive,
Hmm.
uh, think of it as a triangle with like three pillars at the edge of each triangle, the edge of each the okay, anyway, the
I
three
know what you mean.
pillars of a
Yeah.
triangle. So the first pillar would be commitment, and most of my clients in long-term relationships are in committed relationships. Married, for instance. And then the next pillar is intimacy. So routines would fall under intimacy because they make you all feel closer. So talking creates intimacy. Going on regular dates creates intimacy. And then the third leg pillar of the triangle uh, is often lacking in most long-term relationships that I've seen. So by
Mhm.
the time they come and see me, they will say things to me like, I'm in love with my partner, but I'm not in love with my partner. I'm in love, but not in love.
Right.
I love, but I'm not like having those butterfly feelings anymore.
Mhm.
I don't know why, but I feel something is missing in the relationship. I don't know what it is. I love my partner so much. So what happens is familiarity breeds contempt. You get so familiar with something, you get used to it, you take it for granted, you go into comfort zone. So what happens in this triangular theory of love is that this is what a lot of couples have, and they know they have, and they think that that's all they need, but it's not true. So it's not enough to have commitment. It's not enough to have intimacy. The third leg of the third pillar of this triangular theory of love is passion. Passion. So just now we talked about being spontaneous, we talked about variety, we talked about people into excitement. So that all falls under this pillar called passion. So
Right.
the cure for the routines that we're talking about is that there's nothing wrong with routines per se, but beyond routines, like what else is there, to grow from, right? Because life is not about just staying stagnant. Some people like to stay stagnant, but what happens in opposites attract? What if your partner is somebody who is a little bit more creative or playful, or a person of variety, and a person who is more inclined towards feeling alive and having passion? So I just want to introduce some words in alignment with the word passion. So some of my clients don't understand what passion means. So I say passion is anything that makes you feel alive. So you can say passion, aka is exciting. Anything that's exciting, things that are exciting can involve a change, can involve going to the unknown. So going to the unknown is scary, but it is exciting. And then there's also the element of the forbidden, things that you maybe always wanted to do but don't dare to say, don't dare to try, don't know how to say. Once you go into the forbidden, it is actually fueling the exciting and fueling your passion. And so it is important to bring that into the relationship as well. Is this passion that I something that I want for myself, or is this something that we do as a couple? So for instance, some people get a lot from bungee jumping, or scuba diving, or learning fencing. Regardless of what it is, doing something for yourself, whatever you do for yourself, making yourself feel good, happy, more whole as a person, you are actually increasing that vitality and bringing that energy back into the relationship. So ultimately, it does change the relationship dynamics, and it can make your relationship better for it. So working on yourself can improve your relationship. When you change your partner, the dynamics in your relationship can also change. So taking responsibility for the way you feel, your excitement, your zest for life, does help your relationship. So I guess this is the cure that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I feel like when you worded it that way, it feels so obvious that passion is such an important thing, but we're kind of told that we don't need it. I mean, there's that term, the honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, the honeymoon phase dies. It's meant to.
Yes, so the problem is that when the honeymoon phase dies, this is a biological sensation. But what do we do to nurture, cultivate, and guard our passion? If we don't do it, then obviously the flame dies. It's much harder, right, to get the fire going when the fire has gone out.
Yeah.
So isn't it easier to just keep the fire going by being aware? So this was why I wanted to bring that to today's session.
Yeah, and I feel like we forget sometimes that remaining passionate, like you said, we have to like take responsibility for it. It's a lot of work. It's not
Yeah.
just, it doesn't just happen.
So sometimes we don't realize this when, like with COVID, with stress of life and things like that, we become very stressed. People can become depressed, can become burnt out, and can become cynical and jaded about life. And that's when, the passion in yourself goes out. And that does definitely starts to affect the relationship. So guarding your own passion and guarding the passion within your relationship are parts of being and staying alive to be your best self, so that you can go on to produce masterpieces, right?
Yeah, exactly, for sure. I think that's a really good note to end on and a really good thing to remind our listeners of. Um, where can we find you? Where can we learn more about you?
Yes, so you can find me at eroscoaching.com.
And do you have a Twitter?
Oh
Or
yes, I have everything. I have Twitter, I have Facebook, I have YouTube, I have Instagram, I have TikTok. So at the moment, my
oh, you have
TikTok is
TikTok
the
too.
biggest one.
Yeah.
Yeah, my TikTok is the biggest one at the moment. Biggest channel. A lot of people are following me on TikTok.
Okay, right. So definitely check it. Is that the same handle as well, Eros?
Uh, I think it's my name. Yeah, so it's Dr. Martha Lee.
Martha Lee. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for joining us today, Martha. It's been amazing to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great fun, and you have been such a great host, asking really good questions.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
I've been really curious about this topic, so it's been really fun.
Yeah, it's been fun.
You've been listening to Reloscope, the Relationship Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. For more episodes like this from 10 different life management perspectives, search LMSL on YouTube, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts, so you can get updated on everything we have to offer. We have a wide range of topics readily available for you to check out. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps us grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found at re.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Aditi Kutty. Thanks for tuning in.